The Acolyte caused Star Wars fandom to plunge into civil war. We're now in a time where journalism no longer means what it used to. All integrity is lost. What the fuck is going on? Disney Defenders wrote a whole thing to YouTubers trying to get them deplatformed from YouTube because they didn't like the Acolyte. They coordinated a campaign against them. This is the most annoying fucking thing that I see happen nowadays with, like, media, is that any time that a person criticizes another person, that other person will get harassed. If I criticize somebody's actions, they will get harassed. It will happen, guaranteed. I promise you it will happen. And if somebody criticizes me, I will get harassed because of that criticism. To say that you can't criticize people because then they get harassed is to say that you cannot critically evaluate any person at all, which is ridiculous. It's very obvious when you're talking about a person who is enabling and encouraging legitimate harassment versus somebody who is just simply being critical of an action that you took. There have been a lot of times that I've made videos about people and they've been harassed because of the video that I made. I'm not sorry for a single fucking one of them, and I would do it again, and I will. Because I'm not making the videos for those people to get harassed. I'm criticizing them because I think they're doing something wrong, or I disagree with what they're saying. And if they make a video and they make a tweet, like for example, do you remember that guy that made the tweet about how I had reacted to his video and he didn't like it and then I DM'd him, I took down the video? Well, when I did that, a lot of people harassed me over that tweet. Is that his fault? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Because he didn't tell people to harass me. He didn't push for that. He didn't do anything. It's not his fault at all. So, and I'm not mad at him. That's his opinion. Monster Hunter Blindfold. Yeah, exactly. That girl got harassed because I criticized her. That's the way it goes. Creators are not responsible for their audience. You are never responsible for the actions of another person. Like, unless you're paying them or telling them to do it, then you're not responsible for what they're doing. It's not a spectrum. Yeah, but on the internet, it's pretty much binary. It seems all the mass death threats and attempts to deplatform myself from Molly and others where he advocates for in the Forbes article. Where is he advocating for this? They ask us to denounce this, to blame us to control millions of people, yet they're silent when it happens to us. Creators are absolutely responsible if failed threats are made or downright telling them to do things. Your audience does it without any incitement. That's on them. Exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, of course, if you're inciting people and telling people to do something, then yeah, you have responsibility for that. Everybody knows that. But when you're just criticizing a person and saying what they're doing is wrong, then you're not at fault when that person gets harassed. I think this is just like every normal person knows this, right? Like, it was a nuance that I didn't think that we'd have to get into because most people here are adults. But yes, that's clearly the obvious difference. Lie, defame me. Should be sent to my legal team. Video exposes lies. Okay. What's this? Maybe someday these bullies will take accountability for the harassment. The only thing that was wrong that I think that anybody did is asking for people like Star Wars Theory to be deplatformed. Right? Critical drinker, Nerdrotic, like Star Wars Theory, the axis of evil, for like the Acolyte enjoyers. These people should have never, they should not be deplatformed. They have every right to have whatever opinion they want. It's insane that this is even a topic.
I saw someone say, is this your Sith era theory? And I'm like, yeah. When did it become okay to constantly berate someone for years, and then if you answer back, that's your Sith era? No, that's just standing up for yourself or replying. That's literally all it is. You know, if you're provoked, I think it's fair game to be able to say your piece back. So anyways, that's what I did in the recent video. Essentially just talking about Clone Wars returning in live action, which I think would be pretty dope. But of course,
yeah, what's the problem?
This guy, the Forbes guy, Paul Tassi, goes ahead and makes another tweet. Use incognito mode for porn. I use it to check on channels that make videos about me that I do not want in my algorithm. Well, thanks
anyways. Is this problematic? What's wrong with that? He doesn't like you. Obviously, he doesn't like you.
For the view, man. And his comments are just, well, they speak for themselves. Anyway,
it's admittedly funny. What does this say again? Less people funny putting whiny aggressive comments on family photos on my Instagram every time this happens. Yeah, this is stupid. Like, obviously, if somebody makes it, like, if you post a public article, you have to accept that people are going to criticize and talk about that article. That's just what's going to happen. Unless he's telling people to harass you. And if he is, you should report him to YouTube and get him banned. It's that simple, right? No shot. Yeah, it's that simple. Can't handle it, leave. Well, the thing is that it's weird because I think that Star Wars Theory is being kind of melodramatic about this, but I also think that Paul Tassi is being unreasonable as well by saying that he's being harassed and he's trying to connect like negative comments on like family photos on his Instagram, like as if Star Wars Theory supports this, right? And that's the issue. It's the implication that in any universe he supports this.
Anyways, that video was an opener to the real video, which I'm glad you're now all familiar with him. So this is, I would say, part of the problem. I would say essentially this is kind of where all of this rhetoric leads to when it comes to trying to deplatform people, which is a
where's
scumbag move anyways. Weak move from Molly and Alex.
True, but let's see it.
Part of that. But this kind of journalism is really what is setting the narrative for the weak-minded people who just kind of follow the sheep. And I believe that it's just not helpful. I think there's a lot of gatekeeping in this kind of journalism, which we're going to get into right here. And
I think that he's right about that there is a lot of gatekeeping of things like this that happen, where like people think that you're not allowed to have certain opinions about like shows. Like you saw that with The Witcher, you saw that with the Star Wars Acolyte. It's very common.
It just needs to stop, I think. I think we need to have better writers or people who have maybe more of an open mind or aren't so set to just one sect of a certain fandom and are able to see things from maybe a little bit more of a logical and reasonable perspective.
2 videos of context you're missing? What am I missing? They contacted YouTube to deplatform me? Okay. Star Wars Explained tries to demonetize Star Wars Theory. Is this it?
And I know Alex is behind all this, but he's just such a sackless guy that he just. I see that they've lumped me in with some of my colleagues and friends online to have our channels demonetized and essentially sending a letter to YouTube to abolish, destroy, end. It took me almost 2 years to get there. Really, the best tip
I really like, yeah, getting people demonetized is bad, and YouTube said they're not going to do it, and that's a good thing. But what does this have to do with Paul Tassi? I'm not seeing him tweet about this at all. He's not talking about this anywhere. So he came in later. Well, then where is it? Because like if you're getting mad at one guy because you're getting harassed by this group of people, I don't see it. He does? Well, where is it? The end of the first video you watched? Okay, let's take a look at it.
They have a certain outlook of something. So on September 9th, Paul Tassi released an article called "The Acolyte Has Caused Star Wars Fandom to Plunge into Civil War," which, yeah, I think that's kind of accurate in a sense. However, he goes on to mention me and several other YouTubers as well, and he really writes in his article that I and many others should be deplatformed and demonetized.
Where? The saga of Acolyte is well known at this point. The show is little watched, but developed a core base of fans who really liked it. From its representation to its villain, The YouTubers in question devoted dozens, if not hundreds, of videos to tearing down the show and everyone associated with it every week, which has led not to just to pushback from Acolyte fans, but stars like Amanda Steinberg. Then the show was canceled. So you can't criticize the show?
Several other YouTubers as well.
Wait, what?
And he really writes in his article that...
Now we enter the current phase, which went... Members of the Star Wars community in support of shows like The Acolyte and its actors banded together to create a movement to try to get a number of specific Star Wars channels demonetized, with examples of what they believe was racism and harassment in their videos, which should be against YouTube terms of service. That's what happened.
Should be deplatformed and demonetized because of our rhetoric, because of our point of view of Star Wars in general. So, anyways... Let's go ahead and check this out and read this, because I want to bring light to this. I don't think this is acceptable behavior. I don't think, for a publication such as Forbes, I don't think this is respectful. I don't think it's insightful, and I think it's malicious. You think the drama of The Acolyte is over? Think again. As now what has been arguments about content of the show has progressed into a full-on civil war in the Star Wars fandom community. The two parties are fans that appreciate shows like The Acolyte and did not appreciate what seemed to be a coordinated, relentless assault on the show and its actors by YouTubers and their subscribers.
Okay.
So where's the evidence that these are coming from YouTube, from the subscribers? Where's the evidence that all of these subscribers are sending attacks to the actors or the actresses or the writers? Where is that information? I need that intel. They are attempting to demonetize many of those accounts which they believe are racist or encourage targeted harassment campaigns.
I don't think that Paul Tassi's in the wrong yet. He's simply writing an article describing the situation. He's saying this is happening.
Other side
You're
says they
retarded?
simply...
No, I'm not retarded. I just look at what I read and I make a decision about it. He's putting spin on it? Yeah, a bit he's putting spin on it. You could say that, but there's nothing that's been said here that is inaccurate or blatantly misleading.
Hate the show for normal reasons. The saga of The Acolyte is well known at this point. The show was little watched, but developed core base fans who really liked it, ranging from its representation.
Okay, let's move on.
In this, and I like this, since they liked it for that primary reason, then, of course, everyone has to have liked it for that reason too, and if they didn't, then they're going against that representation, and therefore they're racist. So I would even argue that the people who are saying such things are only seeing the depth of this show or only showing interest in the show because there is representation. I would argue that
there's still nothing wrong with this paragraph. He's saying that there are some people that like the show because it had a black lead actress. That's guaranteed true. There's still nothing wrong.
The people who are so in love with the show would love it just as much if everybody was white. I guarantee you, the people who love the show, I do not think they would like it as much or nearly at all if all of the cast members were white. And to me, I say, I don't care if they're purple. I don't care what color they are. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Black, gay, straight, trans. You do what you want, man. Just make a cool story, cool characters, and that's it. Well written, thoughtful. I couldn't care less about what they do outside of that. Split from the Skywalker saga, but several hundred years, bro. The YouTubers in question devoted dozens, if not hundreds, of videos dedicated to tearing down the show and everyone associated with it each and every week, which led to not just pushback from Acolyte fans, but stars like Amanda Stenberg publicly talking about the racism she experienced. And look, like I've said this a million times.
Well, this is what happens with anything. Like, it's the same as if you criticize any person, people are going to bring their race and their identity into the criticism. If you criticize somebody that's gay, then people are going to call them the F word. If you criticize somebody that's black, people are going to call them the N word. This is just the way it is. Like, that's just the way the internet is. It doesn't mean that he's accountable for that. It doesn't mean it's his fault. That's crazy. Yeah, I can't even imagine thinking like this. How are you not allowed to criticize a show, bro? Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, and it is, like, this paragraph is very much, like, it is, basically the article is built on the foundation that they're getting reported because they're saying that they're experiencing racism, and then now it's codifying the racism that this person experienced too. So yeah, I do think that there is obviously a spin on this article to make the guys that are making these YouTube videos like Star Wars Theory look bad. It is. Like, I do think that now at this point, because you talked about alleged and now you're talking about the actual stuff, and any normal reader that's reading this will logically go from point A to point B. Criticism is not racism. Yes, but let's not be delusional here. She absolutely experienced racism. Without a doubt. Do you really think that not a single person said racist things to her? Guaranteed this happened. A 100% chance. But that still doesn't make the people that were criticizing the show at fault.
You know, there are so many people that are for sure assholes and racists and bigots and homophobic and all that. But I feel like that's a very small minority. And to take a magnifying glass and just enlarge that and blow it up as if it's the majority of people.
Somebody says she is racist, though? Okay. Then they're both stupid. They're both racist. If you're racist to somebody that's racist, you're still racist. Like, yeah, she is. Wow. Okay. True.
It's really irresponsible to do, especially as a journalist. I think if we're going to really look at something from a objective point of view, we have to really see it for what it is. Okay, there are shitty people everywhere, all over the world. Okay, you run into them every day. I run into them every day. There's also very nice people all over the world. Am I to say that just because one person I met is shitty, or 2 people out of the 100 I meet in a day are shitty, then therefore all of them are shitty? No.
That's the way a lot of people do things, though. That's how a lot of people are racist. Most people, I think, are racist because they had a bad interaction with a person of that race. And then they just blame everybody of that race for the same thing.
It's just a select few.
Common.
That's how life works. You can't fix the world.
But I'm done.
Unfortunately.
What is this? What does this guy say?
Works.
Reported that I'm done. First text threat, but the things I've been saying the past few days are constantly disgusting. I have no respect for this part of the community or those that cultivate it, and inexcusable and pathetic. Yeah, I mean, like, harassing somebody and sending them messages that are hostile, it's pretty simple, right? Like, if you do that, you should get banned. Like, if you're threatening somebody online, you should get banned. Like, it's not even like, it's not even a question. Like, there's no conversation here. Nobody's disagreeing with this.
Can't fix the world, unfortunately. Now, Amanda Stenberg took that minority who were racist and jerks and essentially said the entire fandom who does not like the Acolyte is alt-right, racist, bigots. I mean, that to me is that's also extremely irresponsible, especially in her position. And she is representing Lucasfilm, and she is representing Leslie Headland and everybody else that she worked with. Nobody's saying a damn thing. If anything, they're saying, you go, girl.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
What is this? And so we have these articles from a massive publication, Forbes, also touting
I've got to draw attention to this. You can't do this in my chat. Why are you doing this? There's a lot of Jew haters. Adolf's been making a big comeback recently. He's been making a very, very big comeback. I've been seeing it on Twitter. Yeah, like, there's been a lot of it. Anyway. Let's move on.
Same kind of bullshit. I think this is seriously a massive red flag. It's a form of brainwashing in a sense where if people don't understand or don't see it, they're like, oh no, these people are racist.
Yeah.
My God, it couldn't be further from the truth. Racist people are racist. But that's not the majority of everybody. For example, I don't want to make it about me, but
this is what happens a lot, is that one person says something that's bad. Like, let's say you have a group of 100 people, and then one person does something bad, and then the entire group gets categorized as being bad. This is a very common tactic that's used in journalism in order to paint dissenters as bad people.
The death threats and stuff that were thrown at me that you guys saw on Twitter, on X, horrible things that were said that I even showed in some videos, that all comes from that side of the fandom who loved the Acolyte. Am I therefore to say that everyone that loves the Acolyte is a disgusting piece of shit who wants to wish me death in the most gruesome, horrible, weird, psycho ways? No, those are just a few bad apples that are psychotic.
Who cares? Yeah.
That's the internet. That's life. That's people.
Yeah.
Then the show was canceled.
True.
Given that Disney is, well, Disney, the decision likely came down to mainly an absurdly high cost, which was very much Disney's fault, and low viewership. Though many, including... No, it had nothing to do with the high cost. They'll pay for... they'll pay up the nose for anything that they want, as long
Well, the show cost a lot of money because it didn't make a lot of money. Something costs a lot of money. Like, for example, if you spend $100 and then you make $80, that cost $80. Sorry, if you spend $100 and you make $20, well, then you just lost $80. That's a lot of money. But if you spend $100 and you make $300, then you didn't spend a lot of money. It's entirely contextualized around, is the number up or down? It's not about the amount of money spent. Like, what do you think? Think about how much money they spent on Game of Thrones. But the reason why they did that was because the show was really popular.
as it gets the views, as long as it gets the money. And that's really, at the end of the day, all it is. So, you know, this thing could have cost freaking $100 million. It still wouldn't have been enough for them to renew it for a second season. And low viewership, though many, including some of the cast, credited the racism and harassment and felt it gave a win to toxic parts of the fandom.
It did. And so what you see here is, I actually do think that Paul is engaging in a form of subversion here, because he initially introduced what the conflict was as accusations of racism and harassment. And he used it specifically accusations of, oh, well, people claim this is happening. And now halfway through the article, the racism and harassment is now codified and it is established. So what that does to the reader is that it causes the reader to passively assume that that side that was alleging these things was in fact correct. It's persuasive writing that's hard to pick up on unless you can see it. Accept allegations as reality. Well, it starts as an allegation. It's introduced as an allegation, but then later on it's referred to as a fact. So it gets people to let their guard down as if they're reading an unbiased perspective of something, and then the perception changes because it's distorted. And the problem is that I'm sure Paul would say this is what happened, and he's right that that's what happened. But if you're not intentionally trying to separate the people who are racist or harassers from the people that just don't like the show, then I think that you are intentionally painting them in a bad light. And it's being done on purpose.
Enter the current phase, which went, members of the Star Wars community in support of shows like The Acolyte and its actors banded together to create a movement to try and get a number of specific Star Wars channels demonetized with
And you see how the racism, what they believe was racism. And you see how this messaging happens. This is a very big problem in, like, and so this is it's a core problem because Paul is a smart guy. I like Paul Tassi. But I think that he's obviously engaging in subversion here. He clearly is engaging in subversion. And the problem is that a lot of people are not proficient in English enough to be able to pick up on this. You like him? Yeah. No, I've read a number of things that he's written that I've agreed with. And I think that he's had good takes on things before. This isn't one of them. I disagree with this. I don't hate the guy. No, I'm disagreeing with what he's saying in this article.
Of what they believe was racism and harassment in their videos, which should be against YouTube's terms of service. Well, clearly it wasn't, since YouTube said that this does not go against terms of service. However, once YouTube...
This was a huge gamer move that YouTube made, is that they basically... all of the internet Karens that were upset that they couldn't watch The Acolyte season 2 got together and wrote like a letter to YouTube asking for these people to be demonetized. And then YouTube said, yeah, we looked it up and there's nothing wrong with it. Shut the fuck up and leave us alone. Which was an absolute W move by YouTube.
Was tagged. The concept was met with an immediate reply 13 minutes later from YouTube that they reviewed the video in question and found that it was not in violation and no action would be taken. This was celebrated immediately by the targeted YouTubers in question.
Well, they should be.
Though further investigation reveals that it is a pretty generic YouTube auto message, which has been used hundreds of times before, and there's no evidence that YouTube took the quite elaborate movement seriously for more than a few minutes, or did anything.
Good. They shouldn't. It's just a bunch of retards getting mad on Twitter that want to shut down other people that disagree with them.
Resembling investigation. So this also is incorrect. So what he does, what Paul Tassi does, is he looks at the reply which was sent a day after this was actually created.
Right.
So this was actually created and sent on September 4th, which took YouTube an entire day to check out the claims, and then they replied on the 5th, and they said, thanks for reaching out, just heard back and confirmed that this content is not violative and will remain up. We totally understand you may not agree with this decision, but we reviewed this video very carefully against our policies.
Yeah, huge YouTube W, by the way. Massive YouTube W.
Replied the day before this, and they said, we're going to check it out. Could you please send a link of all of the videos in question?
So so basically, the entire idea that it was done by a bot seems like it's not true. Yeah.
Or the channels in question, and Molly Damon...
Paul's saying that it was done by a bot to discredit it. He is. I don't know if it's to discredit it, to be fair, but I do think that's what's happening. Yes.
Molly went to YouTube's aid and made sure that she freaking tried to rat every single person out on that list. And I bet
these people, I want you guys to see that they are the internet Karens. These people are absolutely the internet Karens. They are the ones that are complaining to the manager. They're the ones that want their food sent back because it's too cold. They're the ones that are getting mad because the barista spelled their name wrong.
I was in that freaking link too.
They're Karens, they
are. Our livelihoods. And I sound like a broken record, but man, you don't understand. Imagine you work so freaking hard and someone just wants to take that away from you because of wrongthink, because you don't agree with them on a freaking show. So,
well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take a moral high ground to make YouTube feel like they are morally obligated to shut down competitors, because what they're going to do is now they're going to paint YouTube as enabling racism. That's what they do.
Journalist, writer for Forbes is writing misinformation, trying to say that this is a automated response within a few minutes. Incorrect. It's a response a few minutes, one full day after having checked everything out. Two, hey, Team YouTube, Star Wars community would at least appreciate a formal... I love how they call themselves a Star Wars community. It's like, yeah, only you guys that like the Acolyte are the Star Wars community. Everybody else who's been supporting it and literally got it to the point where it's worth $4 billion for George to sell.
They're not the community.
They're just a bunch of losers.
They're the toxic
grifters. Racists. They don't actually give a shit about Star Wars. Come on.
It's the same extortion scheme used by game journalists for Black Myth Wukong. Yeah. I hope that a lot of people, like, now that we've gone through a lot of these topics so far, a lot of people are starting to realize and pick up on these patterns and these techniques that journalistic outlets use in order to maintain a hegemony over information. It's been very problematic, and, like, I noticed it a lot. Like, I have kind of like a personal vendetta against this, because I remember noticing it whenever I was a teenager, like after 9/11, and I was like, wow, this really seems like super biased. Wait a minute, like, he didn't say that. Like, why are they writing about this? And, like, I saw it happen with Obama. I saw it happen with it happened with Ron Paul. It happened with Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump. It's happened with a lot of people that have been outsiders or that have not had the right opinion. It even happened a little bit with John Kerry in 2004. I was only 14 then, so like I don't remember have like very good memory of it, but I do remember how the way that it was represented was clearly asymmetrical. And I've always really disliked this. And the reason why I dislike it is that it is well, it's lying, number one, but it's also I think the reason why I dislike it is because it works. To be honest, that's why it makes me mad, is that this strategy works. And the reason why it works is because people are not they're not like I don't know, like they can't read, basically. Like I could say something that's more sophisticated, but let's be real, they can't fucking read and they don't see what's happening. So I have a very personal vendetta against this, and I've had it for a very long time.
This thing, if you got it.
Man. It's your average Twitter user complaining about the group of people that they don't like that's responsible for every bad thing that's happened in their life that they are coincidentally not responsible for at all.
Though further investigation reveals that this is a pretty generic YouTube auto message, which has been used hundreds of... That's just because that'll help you sleep at night, right?
Well, it's very clear if you could tell whether it was a YouTube automated message, right? Because if it was an automated YouTube message, you could copy-paste the message and then expect to see a copy-paste of that message that's been repeated multiple times. But that's not what happened. So it's very obviously not a copy-paste automated message, because all automated messages are written the same. Just by any sort of logical investigation, you would come to this conclusion instantaneously. That's a good looking dude. Yep.
Nothing.
And there's no evidence that YouTube took the quite elaborate movement seriously for more than a few minutes. They spent a full day, and then they got back to you and said that there's nothing that violates terms of service. More do you want? Why are you lying? Why are you always lying? Or did anything resembling investigation? How do you know? What are you, Team YouTube? Why don't you just tweet yourself, bro? It was likely just a bot scraping a video, and what video that even was isn't clear. Why are you making stuff up, bro? Just take the L, move on, write your other articles for Forbes.
I do think that Paul is he's not giving a very good analysis of what happened from YouTube. That this is correct. It's undeniable that this is not a good analysis if you don't take into consideration the fact that it was sent to YouTube and YouTube responded to it the day before. Yeah, it's not even a question.
Making their company look more and more shitty, but hey, you're giving me something to talk about, so that's great. Thanks, pal. Maybe it's time I now turn the tide. That level of abruptness and lack of diligence is not very surprising. This guy is still going on his own lie. Bro, they took over a day. Get over it.
That lack of abruptness and due diligence is not very subscribing. So this is, again, this is basically a... this is like kind of basically you create a narrative by saying that YouTube did it with a bot, and then the lack of diligence is not very surprising, implies that there is a malpractice that's being done, right? That this is somehow like a wrongdoing that has happened. You see, this is a loaded phrase, and this is how it happens. It's a false narrative. Yes, exactly. And so, like, basically, you assert a possibility, and then you build a narrative based off of that possibility being true that causes readers to passively accept that the assertion that you made is the truth. That's how this works.
Move on. It's okay, Sally. Since this happened, fans have now pointed towards people moving on to comment on a black actor's Instagram that they want the acolyte treatment, viewing that as a threat to mount a similar movement. One random Johnny Root _ stands for everybody. These people, man, just say, like, desperate. Like, this is your facts? This is your evidence?
Yeah, there's a comment with 134 likes.
One random dude on the internet sends a message. What the fuck, bro? The YouTuber side of this escalated thanks to Star Wars theory.
That's this
the
guy.
Largest, well,
That's
thanks,
him.
Paul. You're welcome. You're welcome, Paul.
All right.
The largest Star Wars fan channel on the internet who has been the frequent centerpiece of what is viewed as the toxic part of the fandom. Really? Please tell me what it is I do that's so toxic. Because I just call out what I think isn't really a
has been viewed, and this is another term that's used. It's like a, you know, like it's weasel language, right? Where it's like has been viewed. Well, of course, somebody has viewed him like that. This is like that one guy that would call every white person a suspected white supremacist, like Tariq. It's like terms like this by who. So you're basically like you're creating an argument to authority. Because, or an argument to like normalcy, I guess, that this person is being viewed as bad, but there's no actual like evidence of this. There's no quantification of this. It's just known. And this is exactly what happened with Black Myth Wukong. And this is also what's happened with other games as well, like Stellar Blade, is that misinformation and accusations are assumed and never quantified.
To what George would have done, and that's it. So if that's toxic, then I guess you want everyone to have a gag order unless it aligns with your beliefs. And that, I think, is far beyond toxic. That's a totalitarian regime. That's a dictatorship. Theory also constantly bashed the Acolyte with the usual, it's the bad writing and breaks canon claims. Well, yeah, it did. Please tell me how it didn't. Please tell me how the Acolyte was good writing and it didn't break canon. I'd love for you to explain this in your next Forbes article. I'll be waiting. Though it's a long pattern of him moving on from focused Star Wars lore discussion to lambasting much of what Disney has produced. Well, you see, when you grow up with something that you really loved and you see it being torn to shreds by people who don't understand it, and then if you don't like it, being called racist, and then having your entire livelihood potentially taken away from you because you don't like what they've done to something so sacred to you, I guess that is what I'm doing. Yeah, it's quite a long pattern. I think speaking about how it breaks lore, I mean, you're kind of contradicting yourself. You're talking about how I'm talking about how it's bad writing for Star Wars, which I explain, and it breaks canon.
Well, you're quoting what he said, and the quote is meant to, the way he's quoting it in this sentence, the quote is meant to demean the statement, and that's why it says claims afterwards. Although it's a long pattern of him moving on, right? Like this entire sentence is created with the intention of basically delegitimizing his channel by saying that he's moved on from lore discussion and delegitimizing what he doesn't like about the video.
How is that moving
the show,
on from focused Star Wars lore discussion?
Yeah.
Theory went off on social media saying that things had crossed a line by trying to get these channels demonetized, including mine. But let's not forget, Alex and Molly have been trying...
I do think that you cross a line, by the way. If you try to get somebody else demonetized, in my opinion, you do at that point cross a line. Because now, like, it's more than... Like, that's basically you're trying to invade their personal space, and you're trying to affect their life in a tangible way. Whereas if you're just making YouTube videos about them or talking about them or whatever, that's one thing. But if you're actually going like after their livelihood, trying to call their employer, messaging family members, trying to get them deplatformed, etc., you 100% have crossed the line. Absolutely. Anybody would say that.
To use other people as an icebreaker, as a scapegoat to get to me for years. And so it's no surprise why they would write such a freaking thing to demonetize and deplatform people, then to have me lumped in the same freaking letter, which goes after people's livelihoods. He just released a video calling out another channel, Star Wars Explained, who had signed on to the demonetization. He just released a video calling out another channel, Star Wars Explained, who calling out. Bro, I literally just put the mirror up to their face after they were berating me for 8 years and being jealous and just envious and rude and shit-talking me behind my back to so many people for so many years simply because I did well on YouTube. The receipts are all there.
Well, which got extremely personal, reviewing his private communication with the channel owner in the past. Well, yeah. And this is the thing, right? The extreme, which got extremely personal. This type of language is once again used to delegitimize Star Wars theory. You see what I'm saying, right? This is how it's being delegitimized. Defending yourself is evil if I don't like your politics. Yeah, exactly. And also, by the way, yeah, if you're calling for a person to be demonetized, you are getting extremely personal because you're affecting their personal life. Like, this is their job. They make YouTube videos for a living. So, yeah, talk about extremely personal, getting somebody fired from their job effectively, or the Office Space, right? Well, we just fixed the glitch. He still goes to work and, he doesn't get paid. Don't be surprised when somebody wants to burn the building down.
Calling anyone out, that's just saying, I've had enough. Leave me alone. And that's all this is. The more you keep coming for me, the more I'm just going to expose you and destroy you. It's just how it works now. I've had enough. Star Wars Explained, who had signed on to the
by the way, that's what he should do. He should absolutely be on the offensive, and he should be aggressive and proactive in stopping people who are trying to hurt his career or try to get him shut down. Because they're doing that to him. And so the only way that you can beat somebody who's aggressive is by being more aggressive than they are. And again, he's also, every single time that he's doing this, he is doing this reactively. It's not like he's going out of his way to do this to people. He's making his content, and then other people are trying to attack him. So, in him doing this, he's defending himself every time.
A video which got extremely personal, reviewing his private communications with the channel's owner in the past.
And then also, you're right. Here we go. Which goes after people's, quote, livelihoods. Well, what do you think happens if, if Forbes, for example, stopped giving Paul Tassi advertisements on his articles and he wasn't getting paid any money? Would he think that's going after his livelihood? Of course he would, because that's how he makes money. It's an intentional, basically, it's an intentional... I don't know, I'm trying to think the best way to say it. It's kind of, you're making it seem trivial or you're making it seem unreasonable, right? It's rat. Yeah, basically rat behavior. Yeah. Scare quotes, exactly.
Bro is acting like I revealed some top secret
Yeah, the fact that he's put livelihoods in quotations is super trivializing it. He is. He's doing it on purpose. Paul's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He's doing it on purpose.
Information. The guy was trying to get my information. The guy was trying to understand a channel that was out for 2 months that amassed 50,000 subscribers, could not fathom how his channel, which was around for 4 or 5 something years, was growing so fast, and he was trying to poach me for information and be my friend. And when I didn't give him any information, because honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just making Star Wars content I enjoyed. He started to just talk shit about me nonstop. And then he would apologize and talk more shit.
Yeah, that's probably what happened, is that this is a personal vendetta between the two of them. And the other person that Star Wars Explained doesn't like and is very clearly jealous of the fact that Star Wars theory is extremely popular and he's not. I think that's what happened. This happens all the time in streaming, and it happens in entertainment everywhere. Because, they see somebody else that just started, and they're already doing better than you. It happens to you, too? Of course, it happens to everybody. You got ego check? Yeah, he did.
And then do it again and again and again, to the point where now his wife is trying to deplatform me and throw me under the bus for what? He full on went after me out of the frickin' blue on some topics and videos that I was talking about regarding some stuff in this scenario, the solo posters. Fast forward to this, and now he's apologizing and blah, 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 blah. And you realize it's not just the stuff that I showed, it's over the years, all of the weird little tweets that I would see, they would like, of people just talking ill about me, the Pablo Hidalgo stuff, they were all...
No, if people did that to me, I would absolutely put them on blast. To me, I have a very, very simple policy. If you say something bad about me, I will go for the throat. I don't have a problem making a video about you. I don't have a problem making fun of you. I'm not sorry. I will do it. And I here's the worst part. I enjoy it. It's one of my favorite parts of this job.
They enjoyed that. They were laughing with him. They were liking his tweets. Don't think I didn't see this
Free
stuff.
content?
I
Yeah.
see. I check. I watch. I just didn't say anything until they tried to pull the plug. Here's my take on this whole grand drama, which does not appear to even be over yet. Oh, you bet it's not, man. We're just getting started. The hate for the Acolyte is unlike anything I've seen in Star Wars history. Possibly even more than The Last Jedi, which is saying
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I would say
people
so.
were really negative about the prequels when they came out. I mean, The Acolyte, I feel like the show wasn't popular enough for the hate to be that big. Like, I would say proportionally, there was probably more hate for The Acolyte than any other Star Wars, like, thing. But, like, that was about it.
People are really disgusted by it, and I think it's just an absolute abhorrent story
Yeah.
that has no place in Star Wars and has no place before The Phantom Menace and just breaks a ton of lore. I mean, as you said, I've made countless videos about it, so why don't you go watch them? In fact, I bet you have, but just like your
Incognito
lack of
mode.
data, or rather your manipulation of data with YouTube's response time, you just want to lie and pretend like you don't know. But really, we all know you got that incognito mode open 24/7, and I'm living rent-free on your browser. Well, actually, you're paying me with the views, so thanks. I hope Alex doesn't lose any sleep over that tonight.
Get your ass up!
There absolutely was an industry created on YouTube dismantling the show each and every week. Yeah, it's called reviewing products, reviewing media, reviewing shows and
Yeah,
movies.
I think the idea that there's an industry that's created around it and then putting industry in quotations is, again, trying to make it sound ridiculous or trying to degrade or make it seem stupid again. You're doing it again. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yeah, the industry is called film review and movie review. This is what people have been doing for 100 years.
That's what do you think were the first people that have reviewed movies?
Yeah.
It's been going on for many, many years, far before YouTube even existed. People were reviewing movies in magazines.
Anytime you use quotations like that, it's dismissive. It is.
Was probably part of that as well.
Yeah, he's
Because
doing
there's
it on
an
purpose.
industry for people like you lying and trying to throw people under the bus and paint a picture that is so unbelievably far from the truth. But I guess, hey, when you're a journalist, the truth really doesn't matter. It's more so about clicks and what your narrative can purport to people who don't know any better. Even though this We Hate Disney Star Wars crew has been around for a long while, it did in fact make talking about the Acolyte online with any semblance of positivity practically impossible without being swarmed by what were often devotees of these channels, if not the YouTubers themselves.
So the problem with this is the implication that people disagreeing with you about your opinion about a TV show is problematic. That's what happens, is whenever you post something publicly, there are going to be other people that will respond to it publicly. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the way the world works. So, would it be impossible without being swarmed? Yeah, and also, has it ever occurred that maybe the reason why you're getting swarmed by people that disagree with you is because the opinions that you have are not the majority opinion? So if you put out an opinion and you say, like, I hate eating pizza, most people like pizza, and there's going to be people saying, hey, what the fuck do you mean? Like, pizza's great. They should make pizza illegal. Right? I mean, of course that's what's going to happen.
Where was this rhetoric with The Mandalorian Season 1 or Season 2? Where was this, for the most part, with Andor? Where was this level of disdain with Ahsoka? I mean, sure, yeah, a lot of people disliked it, but nothing close to this level. Where was this with Tales of the Jedi? So, am I to understand that it's all of the shows, or could it perhaps be subjective? And why would it be subjective? Well, let's think about it. Maybe the shows just aren't as good as the other ones. Maybe it doesn't run along the pre-established lore or cadence that George Lucas created with Star Wars when he made it. Could that possibly be it? Or are we just picking at random
Yeah,
here?
and also, again, like, this is also implying, this is another big issue, is that what this does is it implies that the negativity surrounding the Acolyte was an outcome of It was an outcome of the YouTubers talking negatively about it rather than the show being bad. And so what it does is it compartmentalizes criticism as being an outcome of YouTubers who are doing it for making money or some sort of like ulterior motive.
And it just so happens that the ones we pick at random, because we don't like the shows, actually end up not doing well in terms of views and get canceled. This We Hate Disney Star Wars, there's no crew for that. It's a we love Star Wars. We love George Lucas Star Wars. And anything that wants to come in there and change that instead of adding to it, expanding it, respecting
why has this been? Why is that a bad thing? If people don't like what Disney is doing with Star Wars, why is that bad?
Then yes, we will dislike
there's
that.
nothing wrong with
we're
that.
going to talk about it. This whole idea of, in today's world, it's like, oh, it's really ruining the positivity. Well, you don't have to be positive about something if it isn't good. You don't always have to be positive. Toxic positivity is the most annoying thing I have ever experienced, at least one of. Let's say you go to a restaurant and you're eating food and you really don't like it. It's got way too much salt. I dare you not to say anything. Don't be negative. Don't be negative. Enjoy it. Take that frickin' salt and let your kidneys filter it through. Enjoy the high blood pressure, man. Don't say anything. You're being
Do you think
negative.
Disney's paying Forbes? No, I don't think there's any sort of thing like that going on. I just think that Paul disagrees with this guy and doesn't like him. Right? It's pretty obvious. Yeah, I don't really think it goes that deep. Maybe it does, but he's not in on the conversation.
Alex, take your drink. Okay, you okay?
So then we're essentially living in a world where this needs to be shut against any sort of human judgment. You cannot judge anything anymore. Everything has to be perfect. Everything is perfect. And there is no such thing as something not being up to par. You just have to talk about the positive things. I don't believe in that. I believe the best thing in life is to actually look at some of the things that aren't the best and really realize, okay, what can we do to course correct here and make it better? And that's how civilization got better. That's how evolution...
People aren't mad that you're criticizing it. People are mad that you're criticizing the thing that they like for reasons that they think you shouldn't be allowed to criticize. That's what it really is. I would say that's the fine print, but it's not. It's the bold text. Like, that's the truth. It's that people don't want you to be able to criticize this stuff for reasons that they have deemed to be, unquestionable.
Cities and technology and everything got better. It's like, well, you know what? I don't like this function. This could be better. That could be better. With everything, that's how things grow and that's how things improve. If everyone was just like, oh, what do you think? Penicillin would be created if people
And
weren't
also, I think that a lot of writers and people misunderstand the way that the YouTube ecosystem works. So basically, do you want to know the reason why there weren't a lot of popular videos talking about how good The Acolyte was? It's because there weren't a lot of people that thought that it was good. It's the same reason why there's a lot of videos talking about how good Baldur's Gate 3 is and how good Elden Ring is. And there's also a lot of videos talking about how bad Concord was. It's because people are not necessarily going to YouTube to have their opinion defined. They're going to YouTube to have their opinion reinforced. So if you make content that already appeals to a large group of people, then those people are going to say, hey, listen, I agree with this. I'm going to watch this guy. You're validating their opinion. And this is a big problem that a lot of people have in understanding the relationship that content creators have with their audience. Because a lot of people think that the relationship is that the content creator just simply says something and then the audience is like, oh yeah, true. That's not true. And you can read any of my comment sections and you'd know that. There are often times where a huge contingency of my audience is disagreeing with me and saying that I'm wrong. And so the moment that you go against for example, true? Yeah, so true, right? The moment that you go against any narrative at all that people have already defined, then I think people get really mad at you. Like, for example, I said whenever the Mr. Beast stuff happened, a lot of people were mad at me because I wasn't taking it more seriously. I said nobody's going to give a fuck about this in a couple of weeks and it's just entertainment. A lot of people got mad. I was right, by the way. However, you know, that's and why is that? Because that's not the opinion people wanted to hear. The opinion people wanted to hear was, you know, let's burn the witch. That's the reason. The Overwatch 2 loot boxes, a lot of people disagreed with you. They did. Disagree with you every once in a while. I don't care because usually objective and critical. Well, there's going to be everybody has disagreements. It's not a big deal. Like, it's not even worth talking about. But like what I'm saying is that the way that a content creator interacts with their audience is not something that is defined in a way that the content creator dictates to the audience what they think. And I think that in some cases, it's the audience that's dictating what the content creators think. And I think there's even a term for it, audience capture. So it's weird that we even have vocabulary that's been invented for the way that relationships between content creators and audiences have. And somehow we're trying to pretend like this doesn't exist. Very big problem that people have. Confirmation bias, so you are our fault. We're each other's fault. I'll be right back. I need to use the bathroom. I disagree with your take on Resident Evil. Oh, I thought the game was boring. Yeah, true. We good. All right.
Negative. You know, this infection is really horrible. It's killing everybody. But, you know, we should just enjoy life for the most part. And just, what do you, like, how far do you want this to go? Do you want, like, we can
to be fair, that is what people did during COVID. But yeah.
This from movie. We can take your analogy from movies and we can just go something ridiculous like that. Where does it
Damn,
end?
this virus
you want
just
us to
sucks.
sit
Yeah,
there,
so anyway.
consume the thing and be happy and repeat and ask for more. No, some people just don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Acolyte was almost certainly canceled for an absurdly high budget, reportedly 180 million. And is he repeating himself here? Which third-party estimates have documented as being lower than any other Star Wars series. Yes, still, the cancellation was absolutely celebrated as a win by this YouTube fan crowd. And what
here's the problem. There is a critical question that's not being answered. Why was the viewership low? Low viewership doesn't just, like, happen. Like, it isn't like, you know, there's the viewership fairy and it's like, well, you know, fate is fickle. No. There's a reason why it was very low.
they believe is vindication of their hate campaign against the show. It's not vindication.
Well, and this is, again, and you can see how at the beginning something is introduced as a accusation, and then later on in the article, it's established as a fact. You see how this happens is like it's introduced as an accusation to have the reader let their guard down and accept what they're reading, and then later on, it presupposes that this is in fact what happened. It's, again, misleading language. It's building a lot. Yes, right? Exactly. Still, the cancellation was absolutely celebrated as a win. Yeah, because it was a win. That's the reason why it was celebrated as a win. Yeah, it's because they won. Like the show got canceled. It's dead. W. That's it.
A hate campaign.
It was a win.
Hate campaign. It's being happy that something did not pass when it disrespected the lore and disrespected George Lucas and just overall was a really convoluted mess of a show. I mean, that's really all it is. It's not that deep, man. I don't know, it's just a bad show. Shows get canceled all the time. If Amanda Stenberg says she experienced lots of racism before and during the airing of the series, she is not lying. And there are multiple examples of racism against other actors of color in Star Wars, from John Boyega to Moses Ingram.
Yeah, one of those acts of racism was by Disney, by changing his character and making it smaller on the Chinese posters for the movie. So you want to talk about being racist against John Boyega, who, by the way, is a great actor. I think he's great. I wasn't he in Attack the Block back in the day? That was the first time I think I saw him. Like that's the real problem. Yeah, he was so good. I've known about this guy for years.
And I would say the biggest one was Disney, who shrunk John Boyega down in the Chinese posters.
Oh, man. Good one. Real good one. Yeah, true.
Look what they did with Chadwick Boseman, with the Black Panther. I think they just tried to really purport this narrative, and it can be called out so easily and dismantled with facts. Because they're all out there. This is not opinion. This is this guy's opinion. And in fact, he's not even getting the facts straight about certain things. He's just misleading stuff.
Yeah.
So I think these writers and these publications are just so full of it because there's nothing actually genuine about them. It's very disingenuous. And I'm calling it all out.
I do
here.
think that this article is disingenuous. At the beginning, I was trying to defend it because at the beginning, I thought that it was fair. And then it changed from being fair to building on accusations and then, creating narratives around them just being assumed to be true. Then you listened? Well, of course, right? That's what I do, is I read something and then I make a decision based off of what I read. I try not to say something is biased before it's biased, and I try not to say something that isn't biased. That isn't biased until I can prove that, right? I think that's the way that you should think. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
One by one. It would be very, very difficult to mount any sort of campaign to prove to a giant corporate blob like YouTube. I'm talking about corporate blob, bro. What Forbes is turning into. Forbes used to be a publication that actually meant something. But now they have half-bit writers like you out there spreading misinformation. I think that they need to up their game on the propaganda. I think that this propaganda is way too surface level. I think Paul can do a better job writing it. And there are other ways that you can imply this kind of stuff that's more subversive and less easy to tell. It's weak as fuck propaganda. Yeah, Goebbels would be he would... He would not approve of this. Neither would Stalin. Yeah, they're like, you're not even trying. Come on. Yeah, you're getting fired. This is nothing. Come on. Yeah, to the gulag. Yeah, exactly. Gerbil? Yeah, you could ask the guy I banned earlier. He knows all about him. Scroll up, man. Just to purport your narrative. That's ridiculous. That's not journalism. That's not seeing things from a side of fairness and balance. This is an
amateur
unbalanced journalist who obviously has some sort of agenda against YouTubers and against
I think it does really damage a person's credibility when they try to establish themselves as a neutral source and then they try to inject their bias in the conflict. So this happens a lot in media. I think that in politics it's extremely defined. But in general, I find this to be incredibly problematic. Because the issue isn't that you're biased. The issue is that you are establishing yourself as being unbiased. And you're like, let's talk about what happened. And you're not really talking about what happened. You're talking about who's right with what happened. That's where the issue is. What's wrong with gerbils? They hate Jews. Yeah. Be careful, man.
That didn't like what he liked. I guess they're all racist and they need to be deplatformed. Corporate blob like YouTube that specific Star Wars channels are breaking. The only Star Wars channel he spoke about here was me. Paul, bro, like what's your breaking?
It would be very difficult it would be very, very difficult to mount any sort of campaign to prove to a giant corporate blob like YouTube that specific Star Wars channels are breaking TOS due to racism and harassment, as evidenced by that 13 minutes later response. So we're going to go ahead and look at this. Let's see here. Yeah, we're going to look at this part right here. And I'm going to show you guys kind of how this happens again. So you have things like giant corporate blob. And this is being used to degrade the quality of assessment that YouTube is making. And it's trying to make YouTube less qualifiable to make this judgment. And then also you have the 13 minutes later auto response. And this again ties back into the giant blob idea. So you're using this language to create a narrative that YouTube did not properly evaluate the topic and that YouTube would, and the implication, of course, YouTube would, if they had fully evaluated it, get them in trouble. That's clearly what the assessment is. You see how this happens.
You know, the only Star Wars channel he spoke about here was me. Paul, bro, like what's your heart on with me for? Like, you're just freaking obsessed, dude. I guess, you know, maybe this is getting you views. I'm not sure. I don't know. I can make a video on anything.
It is. Guaranteed
you know,
it is.
It'll do fine. So I know that's what you're going to go to.
Yeah.
You're getting views off my article. Absolutely, bro. You calling me out. You started it. What do you want? Fair game, baby. Game is game. Corporate blob like YouTube that specific Star Wars channels are breaking terms of service due to racism or harassment. Again, another lie.
And this is, again, another assumption. See, again, you have three things that are happening, right? I just want you guys to understand what's happening here. Alleged racism and harassment by fans. So it starts here. And then it goes to racism and harassment by fans. And then it goes to racism and harassment by YouTubers. And you see how the article has followed, how it's followed this train of thought. You see how it happens? And once you start to see this, it becomes evident everywhere.
Evidence. Please show me the evidence of me being racist or showing harassment or sending harassment to anyone. I would say it's actually what you do to YouTubers. Me. As evidenced by that 13 minutes later...
No one's being harassed. He's not being harassed. Paul isn't being harassed. The people at the Acolyte aren't being harassed. They're just being disagreed with. And we live in a world that is so bubble-wrapped and padded and kept safe that when somebody experiences a disagreement, they interpret it as harassment. Nobody here is being harassed by any content creator. They're being disagreed with.
Response. Again, another lie. That response was done after a day's work of them investigating. So it could have been hours. They fully took a day. Not because it's not true necessarily, but getting anyone other than some keyword searching robot to examine this closely is near impossible. They had actual responses. I mean, look at Molly's responses.
Well, you could easily tell whether it was a real response or not, because if you look at the way that the way that YouTube does, because YouTube does have bot replies. But if you search the YouTube bot replies, the language and the syntax is 1 for 1. So you can tell that it's a bot reply because that language has been used by YouTube in previous circumstances, because the same bot is going to generate the same information based off of the same outcome, logically, right? So if you can't look this up and find that there's a bunch of other comments that are made exactly like this, then you should immediately think it probably wasn't because it was a bot.
YouTube and YouTube's responses to her. And that was clearly a person that checking something out. And they responded to a few of these people that tried to deplatform all of us. And in the end, this was the final response. I mean, I don't know what you want, bro. Sour grapes. And you tried to take people's livelihoods away under the guise of being racist, and you failed. And now you want to say it's a bot response when it's clearly right. The date is right there, bro. They took a full day to actually figure out, but you're saying it's minutes. There's also a fine line between what you can prove to YouTube as overt racism or targeted harassment and people just being awful in general. You're one to talk. Well,
and this is, again, another example, right? Being awful in general. This is an assumption that's being made. Yeah, this is, again, it's an assumption that's being made based off of this.
Which is allowed frequently on the platform. There will likely be nothing to stop this large group of YouTubers and their large audiences. I cannot think of other examples of fandom where a toxic portion has simply been wiped off the map in any meaningful way. Wow, dude. Those karma points are really adding up for you right now, eh? Maybe the worst offenders sometimes, but rarely. It just doesn't really happen. It's more pronounced here because Star Wars is one of the...
Well, it's, again, to stop this large group of YouTubers and their large... Well, and this is the thing. I cannot think of other examples where a fandom has had a toxic portion simply be wiped out. So it's basically you're establishing the subject, which is a large group of YouTubers and their audiences, and then you're attributing a attribute to that group, the toxic portion, where a toxic portion is, right? So like he's defining them, and it's like I have no problem with Paul coming out and saying, yeah, this is what I think about this. This is where I'm at. But like, don't go and try to talk about like you're not giving a fair shake of this.
Worst manifestations of this, other than, say, MCU haters who spent 100 videos on their channels going after Brie Larson. It may not surprise you that there is a significant overlap in these channels. You can,
and this is, again, the assumption is that, you know, these people are being sexist, right? There's clearly the implication of that. He's talking about, like, the quartering and stuff like that. Quartering, like, Jeremy made, like, 50 videos about her. I watched, like, 2 of them. I don't even know. Brie Larson because racism, huh? Yeah, and also I think that, yeah, Brie Larson's white, so it's like, if this is really a racist problem, then why is... So there's a big overlap in these channels. Well, if racism is the reason why they're harassing this woman, then wouldn't there not be an overlap?
Rely on Disney to back up its harassed actors like they should, and you
Racist
cannot rely on
ancestors.
YouTube to
There
do
you
anything useful here.
Yes.
They are corporations. They care about money above everything else, and they rarely will ever listen to fans over issues like this. Well, again, it's about the money. And I would argue that if you take money out of the whole equation and views and clout and all that stuff and all that was invisible, would this still matter to them so much? Would they still be talking about money constantly? It's all about money. What does the money have to do with anything, any of the merit that we're actually saying in our videos? At least
the reason why they're talking about money is because money is the reason why everything here exists. Money is the oxygen for content on the internet. If you can't make money with content, you can't make as much content. So then that's the reason, is that people want to attack somebody else's financing because that's the easiest way to get them to stop talking about something that you don't like. It's that simple. They don't have money or jealous. Well, I think honestly, everybody is making content for money. Like this ad that is on this article that's on Forbes probably has ads all over it. There's probably dozens of ads. Probably not a dozen, but probably like 5 or 6 ads that's on just this one article. So of course that's what happens.
in my videos. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Well, you're such a stand-up guy because you don't do anything for money. It's not like you're misinforming people.
Well, Paul's doing it for money too. We're all doing it for money. Like, to act like one person's doing it for money, everybody's content's monetized. Like, my videos are monetized. His are monetized. Paul's articles are monetized. His videos, I think, are monetized too because he records videos too. What are we doing?
Literally flat out lying and saying that people should lose their jobs because you don't agree with their takes on movies and shows. Wow. What a person. So yeah, I don't have much hope anything here changes. Not that the movement isn't justified. Oh, shit. Okay, doubling down. Given everything that's happened, but any actual result seems effectively impossible.
Not that the movement isn't justified given everything that's happened. Given everything that's happened. And what's happened? Oh, that's right. There are no examples. This is like one of the chatters. Well, you're wrong all the time. Like when? Wow. It's all the time. I can't, but you're about everything. Like what? Everything.
Possible. Well, thanks, Paul Tassi. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you make another article so I can break that shit down and expose more of your lies and more of your defamatory remarks and slander. Have a great day, Paul. And anyone
I don't
else
think that anybody is slandering
having
anybody.
A voice and having an opinion has to be on the same lines as every other human being. And I'm here to say that I think
And by the way, this is the reason why all journalism is the same, especially with games journalism. It's because the moment that somebody steps off of the accepted type of thought, they are attacked and they're deplatformed and they're demonetized and they're, mischaracterized massively. This is the reason why, if you look at IGN, Polygon, Forbes, any of these different publications, they all have the exact same opinions. It's because when you don't have that exact same opinion that they have, they categorize you as racist, that you hate women, or that you are somehow a bigot or a person that is a problem in one way or another. And that's why you have only one group of people that's speaking about this. Fall in line or get demonetized? Yep, there you go. Accepted is a strong word. It's more radical than accepted. Well, it's accepted inside of their sphere of things, right? They're using fascist tactics in terms of equality. Well, this is what happens, right? Is if you speak out against it, you get in trouble, and they try to get you demonetized. This is why you only see one form of journalism. It's because that the existing, kind of the main one is constantly being used to suppress the other types of thinking.
Totally acceptable, as long as you were respectful, to dismantle whatever form of media or art that you wish. Why didn't you like it? Why did you think it was shit?
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't it resonate with you? At the end of the day, art is created to evoke some sort of emotion from the viewer, and that is subjective. If it made you feel a certain way, type of way, why?
Yeah.
And I believe in my YouTube videos, I very respectfully and eloquently discuss that, let's say, for the most part. So, hey, keep conversing.
You should never try to defend yourself against people like this, because when you defend yourself, you're now playing their game. I don't think that Star Wars Theory should try to defend what he said, because the moment that you defend it, now you are giving it oxygen. That's why, if somebody calls me racist or sexist or I hate any group of people, I say, yeah, sure. Because the moment that you start fighting against it, this is it's a human psychology thing. People think that if you fight against something, it means that it's true.
Out there, keep talking about what you like and what you don't like. Don't feed into this
Yeah,
toxic
to defend it is to
positivity
admit guilt.
bullshit.
Exactly.
Humans
Yeah.
are made to judge things. We are given brains to have a preference about different things. But don't be racist. Don't hurt anybody. Don't be disrespectful. But if you didn't like a piece of art, you are more than entitled to your opinions. And that's all I have to say about this. Hope you guys have a great day. Be respectful out there. Be good. And always talk your shit. Love you guys. May the force be with you.
I didn't expect to watch this entire thing. I really didn't. The reason why I sat through it is that I have a personal vendetta against writing that I feel like is misleading and I feel like is propaganda. This is a personal vendetta that I have, and I get hyper fixated on it because I hate it. I absolutely hate it, and I see it in every form of media nowadays. Whether it's on television, whether it's written, whether it's on YouTube or anything like that. I see these biases, and what really makes me mad, as I said before, is not the fact, and it's becoming less true every day, but for the most part, the reason why these things happen is because they work. This type of propaganda and misinformation is extremely effective, and that's the reason why these articles are written this way. People wouldn't be using the same propaganda techniques for 50 years if they weren't effective. The same shit that Orwell wrote about in 1948 for 1984, that was a what do you call it? That's the same stuff that people are using now. Then you're watching the whole video. Star Wars Theory is a great person, doesn't deserve any of this. I don't think that he was defamed or anything like that. At least I didn't read any defamation necessarily. Maybe. But I think that also it's an instance of, I don't think that he did anything wrong by making videos that were negative about the show. Don't you think it's better to ignore this journalist? No, I don't think so. I think it's important to confront things directly and to address them head on. It's always problematic when you think that you can ignore something and it will go away. Most things that you ignore like this continue getting worse until they reach a critical mass. I think that there are some cases where what you're saying is true, but I don't necessarily think that's it. The problem is Star Wars Theory was doing what you did for 8 years, but they still continued. Your method doesn't work, and Star Wars Theory is one such example. He just had enough. You can't blame him, really. I don't know what you mean by that. The sad part is, Paul knows that it was disingenuous. Well, I think that Paul, he's writing the article from his perspective, and that's fine. But if you're writing the article from your perspective, you shouldn't try to introduce the topic as if you're giving an unbiased assumption, or not assumption, but a summary of what happened. You can't say, well, I'm going to explain what happened in the Civil War, and this side was wrong and this side was right. That's what happened. That's the issue. But his perspective bent the real truth, left out a lot of truths. Yeah. And I think that that's the other issue, is that a lot of, and you guys are probably, how many of you have deep or expert knowledge in a certain topic, right? Even if it's a video game. And you read an article about the thing that you have deep or expert knowledge in, and the article is full of inconsistencies. My opinion is that every article is like that. You just don't know enough to know it. And I think that there are too many people that read and they watch things and they don't actually do their own thinking about them. And they end up letting somebody else do that thinking for them. And I find that to be very problematic. Hillary lied about the YouTube response to victimize his side. It's hard to say that he did that on purpose, but he did misrepresent it, whether it was on purpose or not. But yeah, big surprise. Star Wars Theory has 3 million subscribers, and then some other smaller channel is trying to make him look bad because they're probably jealous. I think that's what probably happened. That's what always happens. Our previous comment was about you telling him to ignore it or it'll get worse. Oh, well, I think that you should obviously address this stuff directly. Yeah, you should always address it directly if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, you should. That's my opinion, right?